Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for spending this Thursday afternoon with us and to discuss some very important H-1B hiring process or paperwork with me and Dan today this afternoon. So today we will have two parts of our presentation. The first part we are going to introduce the H-1B procedure with you, and the second part we are going to discuss options other than H-1B. So it will be a very informational webinars. And after both of our presentation, we hopefully will have some time to take questions. All right. So let me introduce myself first. My name is Chiwei Huang Ma. I think some of you may already know me. I'm the Associate Director for Faculty Scholar and Support at ISSS. And I have a very good team member here, very experienced and capable team member here, Dan. Dan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. As Chiwei said, my name is Daniel Deck. I'm an advisor here at ISSS, and I work with the H-1Bs that get sent my way. So I guess let's just get right into it, right, Chiwei?
Yep.
All right. So we're gonna start with this presentation by looking at the H's. So let's start with that. So we're going to start with these basic concepts and overview of H-1B employees. So what is the H-1B temporary worker? It's defined as an alien who's coming temporarily to the United States to perform services in a specialty occupation. And that is the definition we're given. So to get a little deeper in more details, next slide, please. We're going to look at the idea of a specialty occupation. So, a specialty occupation requires, at minimum, a bachelor's degree in a specific academic field that has a direct connection to the position, as well as licenses or certifications um, that must be obtained at the time of filing, such as like medical licenses or any other special certifications for that specific position. And also, at the time of filing, the candidate must meet these minimum requirements. So, for example, if you have a PhD student who hasn't graduated yet, but the requirement for the position is a PhD, um, then we can't file until all that paperwork is obtained. Next slide, please. Of course, H-1B, they have the ability to have dependents, which are status H-4. They can apply for employment authorization only if the H-1B beneficiary is in the advanced stages of the green card process. If not, they are not permitted to work. For the H-4, it's considered a personal application. So as a courtesy, ISSS, we will submit the I-539, which is the form for change of status or extension of status of H-4. And we'll file that with the H-1B petition, but we will not review it. We just can't do that to help the beneficiaries of the H-4 out. Next slide. Back to H-1B, the basics. H-1B is specific to a job, employer, and location. So all those things need to be listed in the e-forms as well as the job description. The total time allowed on H-1B status is 6 years. There are exceptions to that. For example, if the beneficiary is undergoing green card processes, we can extend beyond that. But for the basic H-1B, it is only 6 years. And when you do request time, you can only request a maximum of 3 years. You can't request all 6 at once. You can only request up to 3 years. H-1Bs, one of the few statuses that allow for dual intent, so it's considered both non-immigrant, like the J or the F, and also immigrant, which can lead to a green card path. Petitions must all be filed by ISSS, and we send them off to USCIS, which is the government agency that adjudicates them. Next slide, please. So For individuals, so beneficiaries who are seeking to obtain H-1B status, there's really just two ways, which the first is of which is consular, which means that the individual is overseas or goes overseas, interviews at a U.S. consulate, obtains a visa stamp, and re-enters an H-1B status, or remains in the United States on another status such as F1 or J1, and we change the status of that individual while they remain in the U.S. Next slide, please. So the types of petitions include those initial ones, which we just discussed, where the consular processing or the change of status, but there are also, of course, extensions, which need to be filed before the H-1B expires. If we miss that deadline, we have to do other procedures, such as consular processing, maybe one of them. There are some others, but typically consular processing would probably be the best way to go about it. And once that petition is filed and receipted, the employment is automatically extended for 240 days while that petition is pending with USCIS. An amendment is required to be filed in advance of any material changes to an approved H-1B. So let's say the individual is adding some work locations to their position, or they're getting a really good promotion. We would need to file and have receipted the amendment petition prior to that taking effect. There's also the portability, which is when an H-1B beneficiary changes employer. So, for example, an employee working at another university, so let's say Princeton, but gets another position at Penn, we would be able to move the petition from Princeton over to Penn. And of course, that needs to happen in advance, and we only need the receipt of that petition for the individual to begin their employment at Penn. Concurrent, it's not very common, but it is important to be aware of, is that if an individual, let's say use Princeton again, has employment at both Princeton and Penn, you can file a concurrent petition, whereas both hiring entities hold the H-1B status of that individual. Yep. Next slide, please. So as the BAs, as the individuals at the hiring department, what are your duties? So obviously conduct hiring procedures. So ensuring that the specific degree is required for the position and that the candidate has that degree and experience for whatever was required for the position. Also setting a reasonable start date, taking into account both internal and external processing times. These can get very complicated very quickly sometimes to process. And so we do need time to be able to do that. So ideally, 6 months in advance, that's the furthest out we can request an H-1B. But please give ISSS at least 90 days advance notice of the H start date. That really helps us out. Applications with the start date of less than 60 days are subject to a rush fee of $750 as an internal processing fee. And also a complete and thorough position description is required, making sure that when you do submit those position descriptions, we have a detailed account of what that individual will be doing on a day-to-day basis as part of their position. Descriptions such as doing research really don't help us out. We need to know what kind of research, what will they be doing for that research, potentially goals of that research. That really helps us move the petition along in a expedited way. Next slide, please. Once that's submitted, it's going to go to one of the advisors, in which case we'll get it, we'll review it, and we'll send out confirmation of that. Usually, when we get those assigned to us, we do an initial review of the petition. Anything that stands out to us, simple requests. I always ask for checks immediately, for example, and we'll get in touch when we are able to review that for you. Next slide, please. As part of the initial analysis, we are required to do a wage analysis, which is the prevailing wage. So there are a couple things that need to happen. So we need to look at the occupational code for the position, which is we usually call the SOC code. So we have to find what SOC code from the government meets or matches the position that's being required for the H-1B. And once we have that, we're able to make a determination on what the minimum wage should be paid for that to that individual. Um, and then we usually and hope that the salary that is being offered matches or goes over that amount, in which case we're fine. Um, but that's an important part of the process, and that can take some time for us to get done. It's also listed here that it says in rare cases, ISSS must obtain a prevailing wage determination from the DOL. This is something that used to be able to be done when processing times were quite quick, but now they are well over the 6-month period. So we just can't do this anymore because we can only request an H within 6 months of its start date. And if the processing times are taking more than 6 months, we lose that opportunity. The other part of the prevailing wage is the actual wage, which is that worksheet that we request from you with employees who have similar titles, duties, qualifications, where you list how many there are, what their position, what their pay is, and then why, if there is a difference in pay, why that is. So, for example, years of experience, higher degrees, more certifications, more publications, things like that. Next slide, please. So we do submit this LCA. It's called the LCA Labor Condition Application, and it's required for each H-1B petition, and we send that to the Department of Labor. Processing time is about 7 days. Typically, 7 days we get it back, it's certified, and once we have that, we're able to finalize the petition and submit it to USCIS after it goes its internal cross-check. Once that petition is submitted to USCIS, a couple things happen. First off, has that petition been sent regular processing or premium? So if it's regular processing, we won't know like the receipt date, the receipt number until we receive the notice in mail. That usually takes, I would say, a week to 2 weeks for us to receive after we send the petition. And then, of course, the processing time fluctuates widely. It could be 2 months before we receive any other information. It could be 9 months. So it's something to keep in mind. But if the petition is submitted with premium processing, we receive an email with its receipt number and receipt date. And once we receive that, within 15 business days, USCIS will give us an answer. It doesn't guarantee an approval; it just guarantees an answer from USCIS. Next slide, please. So approvals or requests for evidence. Obviously, we all want approvals. That's what we're here to do, but we do get requests for evidence. So there's different ones. They're all kind of unique in their own way, and it adds a lot of time to our responses. Especially some of the RFEs we receive are very difficult to respond to. So it adds a lot of time to this process where we need to obtain more evidence, put it together, write letters, stuff like that, so that we can answer all the government's questions. When a petition is approved, the notice does go to ISSS, and at that time we notify the department and employee of the approval, and then of course we provide an e-copy of the approval and a copy of the entire submitted petition, which is important. Once that's done, the department and H-1B employees arrange for pickup or shipping of the notice. And of course, the department should maintain copies of all documents and provide the originals to the employee. Next slide, please. So when can the employment begin? So if the individual is in the US but not H-1B status, so for example, a change of status, the employee may not start the position until USCIS approves the H-1B employment and the start date is reached. If the individual is overseas, he or she can start once in the US in H-1B status and the start date is current. And if they're already in H status, so in the cases of extensions, change of employers, amendments, that those changes or the extension, in which case it's an extension, can continue, the individual can continue to work once the petition is receipted. Next slide, please. And once all that happens, there's an approval. What are the ongoing departmental responsibilities? So one of the most important things is to notify ISSS if there are any changes to the approved employment before the changes take place. So again, I think I mentioned earlier, adding of additional work sites, promotions, added responsibilities, stuff like that. It's really important that we vet that information before it takes place. And then, of course, every 6 months, there is a verification form that needs to be completed. As I mentioned, the job title, degree required, hours worked, department at Penn, location, duties, those are all really important to keep us updated with any changes, because we need to, again, vet that to make sure that it's all okay. If we need to post another notice, if we need to file an amendment, we can make those determinations. We also need to be notified in advance of any termination or an employee resignation. That really helps us let the different parties know about what needs to be done. And if the individual is terminated, the employers are responsible for paying for the traveling fees to send the employees back to their home country. It's also important to be aware of expiration dates and apply for extensions up to 6 to 7 months in advance. Giving us that extra time, I know we said 90 days, but really any additional time, so 6 to 7 months, really, really helps us get everything done in a timely manner. Next slide, please. And then, of course, we touched on this a little bit briefly just a little bit ago, the terminations and resignations. It's important to always consult with ISSS prior to terminating employment of a foreign national, and send us a copy of the resignation and termination notice to us in advance. Also, it's important to consult with us even in the case of voluntary resignations so that we can advise accordingly. And of course, that will, either case will require the end of employment e-form in IPEN to be submitted to us. Next slide, please. This is something we mentioned not too long ago, the idea of credit card payments, something we were talking about rolling out, but now we have an executive order that came out on March 25th that mandates that all federal government will cease to receive paper checks for any of the payments, any benefits, vendor payments, tax refunds, stuff like that. And that will be effective September 30th. So we are going to have to work on expediting our process as well. So we're going to start to phase out checks as well rather rapidly. Next slide, please, which is going to be on July 1st this year. So it's coming up quick. And so we just want to be able to be ahead of the game with this so that when the deadline rolls around, we're good at this. We don't have any worries. We can just transition into it, or we don't even need to transition really. It'll just be done. It'll be a normal practice for us at that time. So we're encouraging departments to submit Form G1450. That's the form where the information for the Pro Card will be entered. We have information we can provide you on that. If you would like assistance on that, we're more than happy to help. So we can ensure that it gets done properly. And then, of course, you always want to check with us about the different options and how that'll work. Next slide, please. So that's H-1B. I'm going to turn it over to Chi-Wei now, who's going to discuss these other options like STEM, OPT, O1, PR, and so on.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
I just feel that we have to introduce our colleague here in addition to me, and then we also have a colleague. His name is Mike here, helping with all the technical issue and helping with flipping pages of our PowerPoint slide. Thank you, Mike. Without Mike, this won't happen today. Yeah. All right. Thank you. So now, after we learn about H1B, then we just want to let you know that there are other options, other employment authorization options other than H1B. Many times that the department will come to me and ask me that, hey, we would like to hire a professor, or we would like to hire a research specialist or a postdoc. What can we do? Okay, so sometimes it's not necessary that this person need to become and come work at Penn on H1B. OPT could be an option. And if this person is from Canada or Mexico, then TM may be also an option too. E3 is an option for Australian passport holder. And also sometimes they are just coming in for a period of time, like they are coming in for a week and just to attend conference or just were invited to give a talk. Then maybe E1, B1, B2 is an option. And O1 is a very is another option. Most of the time when we come to O1, it will be that, well, this person, for some reason, this person is not qualified for H1B. So we look for another option, and that's O1. But O1 has a very, very high standard for credential requirement. So not everyone qualified for H1B would be qualified for O1. Okay. And last thing is that if this person has a long-term goal to work in the United States and stay in the United States, and your department also is willing and also is planning to hire this person for a longer period of time, or has a long-term goal for this person, then you may consider permanent residency. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so now I'm going to get into detail as to how this different employment authorization look like. Okay, so for OPT are for people who has a degree in the United States. Okay, so OPT, the whole name is to as optional practical training, and this is the privilege for a student who completed 12 months of full-time study in the United States. Okay, so this need to happen right after graduation. STEM OPT are student who has majors in STEM. Okay, so STEM OPT happen after OPT. So if this student graduated from a university in the United States in a STEM major, this person need to apply for OPT first. And before the end of their OPT, they can submit their STEM OPT extension application. So that will be for another 2 years. Okay, so total, if this person is in STEM, if this person has a STEM major, then this person has 3 years of OPT before they. So you are, if you plan to hire a person and then you are not so sure whether this person is the right person to hire, and if this person come in with an OPT or STEM OPT, you may delay sponsoring them with H1B. You may have them work for your department on OPT and STEM OPT first. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is a typical OPT EAD card that you will see. So if an employee or future employee come to you and for an interview and they say, hey, I'm eligible, and then I'm actually an OPT EAD card holder, okay, then you can ask to see their EAD card, and this is what the EAD card look like. Okay, there will be a start day and there will be an end day, and then the student or the future employee, they have to report their employment to their school, and their school will help them make marks on their service record. But then as their employer, we only need to see this EAD card and make sure that, wow, okay, so you have status to work for us. Okay, next slide. And STEM OPT is then an extension So before the end of their regular OPT, they should submit a STEM OPT application. And STEM OPT application, STEM OPT basically are two years, right? So after the first year of OPT, that they will be eligible for another 2 years of OPT. And then for STEM OPT, that the employee will come to you and ask you to help them complete this training plan. And then this is a Form I-983 training plan. So most of the time, the PI, the principal investigator, or the supervisor, or the department manager will need to help them complete this I-983 form so that they will be able to apply for their STEM OPT. All right, next slide. Okay, so after OPT, this is another employment authorization. It's called TN. And the TN visa is only for citizens of Canada or Mexico. Okay, so TN need to be well, there are certain category of TN be qualified, certain category of employments be able to be qualified as TN employment. Okay, and then it's on our website. And but if you if you go to our website, you will see all these different categories. And then Canadian citizen, they generally eligible for admission at the border without a visa. But Mexican citizen, they will need a visa. That means that, well, Canadian, if they got approved, they can just bring this TN and cross the border. They do not need to go for a visa interview. Whereas Mexican citizens, they need to go through a visa interview process. Okay, next slide. Okay, so for E3, it's also a 2 years of work authorization that only available for Australian citizens, only available for Australian citizens. And then E3 has same qualification as H1B, and E3 has to apply for a labor condition application. And then also employee can apply at well, either in the United States for change of status, or they apply at the consulate. Okay, so this is E3. E3 is only for Australian citizens. Next slide. Okay, so the next one is B1, B2, or ESTA. This is for people who only come here for a very short period of time. Okay, they will come for a talk, or they will come for a conference, and they cannot receive a salary from U.S. Force of for service, but they may receive honorarium from UPenn if their stay at Penn is no longer than 9 days, and they have not received honorarium from more than 5 institutions over the last 6 months. So just want to remember that it is okay for them to receive honorarium if they do not stay at Penn for more than 9 days, and then if they do not receive other honorarium from more than 5 institutions, then it should be fine. Okay, so want to be very careful about this. Next slide. Okay. For O1 is for people who can be proved of extraordinary ability. Okay, sometimes people will compare the qualification of O1 with EB1B, because if you are qualified for O1, it means that, well, you are really like globally well known. Okay, and then you reach the highest or among the highest standard for your academic performance. Okay, so for foreign nationals who have achieved or sustained national or international claim of extraordinary ability in the field, in science, in art, in educational, business, or aesthetic, or like, but with this background, then it's highly possible that this person may be qualified for O1. Okay, so most of the time, if an employee come to Penn and then thinking that would like to work for Penn and you guys would like to hire him, most of the time, we will consider H1B first. But if this person happen to have a DS 2019, and this DS 2019, and their DS 2019 has subject them to 212E, that means that if he or she is subject to 212E home residency requirement, then this person won't be eligible for H1B. Then we will consider the possibility for O1. Okay. So initial period of stay that we can request as 3 years. And after these 3 years, most of the time we can only request for 1 year and another year and then another year, because for O1 there is unlimited extension. Okay, there is unlimited extension, but the cost is much higher than H1B because our office does not process O1. So once this person is an O1, then we always has to reach out to the law firm, and then you guys have to have like sufficient budget to do it. Okay, so so most of the time, if a person is subject to 212E and cannot be qualified for H1B, we will look for O1 as an alternative. Okay, all right, next slide. Next slide is talking about permanent residency. Okay, it's talking about permanent residency. So for permanent residency, I know that recently there are more departments reach out to our office and then want to discuss the possibilities for permanent residency. So there are two major kinds of permanent residency. The first kind is called employment-based permanent residency. And the second type is self-sponsored permanent residency. So if an employee is looking to be sponsored by UPenn, then they are looking for employment-based permanent residency. Okay. So for employment-based permanent residency, that means that, well, this person is looking to be sponsored by your department. So your department will most of the time need to pay for them. Okay. And then there are only certain type of forms that the scholar can cover the cost. Yeah, but the majority of the cases is the department will need to pay for the scholar. Okay, and then PR are like processed by our outside legal counsel. Okay, so there are several kinds. It could be special handling for teaching faculty. Our office used to handle special handling, but in order to have the law firm to look at the case as from a more holistic view, so that we now also just pass the special handling case for teaching faculty to the law firm. So that once we receive a case, then we will pass it to a law firm. So the law firm will provide a base overview and then recommend what types of PR application is the best for this scholar. So like I said, the employment-based PR application, including special handling for teaching faculty and standard labor certification basis, it's called PERM most of the time. That means that, well, this person has to go through the Department of Labor. And then if this person is highly regarded in his field, then there is outstanding professional scholar or outstanding researcher scholar. This is most of the time called EB1B. And there are other PR categories. Okay, so next slide. So this is just for special handling for teaching faculty. So for teaching faculty that you want to make sure that this person must have teaching components to the job. And this person and the law firm will file a perm labor certification within 18 months of selection. Okay, so if your department did not decide to hire this person and then sponsor this person with PR within the first 18 months of selection, then the law firm may need to restart the selection process again. Okay. And then the preparing time for perm is about 10 to 14 months. It's a long process because we have to go through prevailing wage first, and then we will be able to submit perm. So these are 2 steps of process. Okay. So, so this one, just like what I said, that we used to handle it in-house, but now that we pass it to a law firm. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So this is about policy 119. So the University of Pennsylvania's policy for PR is that we only sponsor research or faculty, professor, researcher, or faculty members with PR. Most of the time, we do not sponsor staff position for green card unless the department can get an approval for an exception that was issued by the Central HR PR Review Committee. Okay, that is to say, if a person is in a staff position and come to his or her manager or her supervisor saying that, hey, could you sponsor me with a PR? If it's a staff position, the answer is no, unless your department think that this person is this person is very special, and then the position itself is very, very unique. So we really need this person to be in this position. Otherwise, it will make a huge it will make a huge it will make it very difficult for us to find another person in the market, in the labor market. Okay, if we do not have this person, it will make us difficult to find a person with similar qualification to fill this unique position in the labor market. Okay, so you need to write a letter to the HPR committee, PR review committee, and to convince them about how unique this position is and how unique this person is. So this exception request will need to be reviewed by the Central HR Committee. And then once they review it, they may say, okay, we agree with you, so we approve this PR request. But they may say, well, we do not agree with you. I do not think it will be that difficult to find another person to fill this job. But they may say, well, I think we need more evidence. So please just provide more evidence about the market evaluation, and we will reconsider it. So basically, if it's a staff position, we just need to go through the Central PR Review Committee. And then once they give you the exception approval, then the process will continue. Okay, next slide. For PR and O1, we do forward the cases to our 2 outside legal counselor. One is Goldblum and the other is Classical. So the process is that we have different e-forms on our, through iPen, right? You will see PR e-form, you will see O1 e-form, and then once we receive your e-form, we will review this case. And then if we think everything looks okay, then we will forward your case to the law firm, to one of the law firm that you select. And then the law firm will soon get back to the department BA. Okay, and then the process will start. I would like to mention for PR, because there are several options. It could be EB1B, it could be EB2, it could be national interest waiver. So once you submit the green card e-form, the PR e-form, we review, and when we will forward the case to the law firm, the lawyers will let us know what's the best option for this particular case. Maybe they think, well, the scholar is very strong, so they would just like recommend EB1B. Maybe they think that, well, maybe you guys should try EB1B and NIW at the same time, so that they will increase the possibility of being approved. So the law firm will give us different recommendation after they evaluate the case. So most of the time, you just need to submit the e-form, and then we review, and the law firm will get back to us with the best option or best recommendation they can put together. Okay, next slide. All right, that's the end. So any questions or any concerns or anything, any feedback? I'm happy that we do see on some new contacts from department.
I have a quick question. This is a basic question for someone who hasn't done this before. When we have an incoming person or a potential new hire, where do we actually get in touch with your office? Is there a particular part of the website or a form that we submit or an email? Just kind of how do we get the ball rolling on that?
So Catherine, are you asking before you know about the status of the person that you plan to hire, right? Just to start to know what kind of status would you recommend to hire this person?
So my role is in faculty affairs. So so I think and I just started in November, so this is all new to me. So just kind of learning about the process. So from what I've seen, we have folks who are maybe former students who are transitioning into a faculty position. And so there might be like a change in status for their application, or in rare cases, there are potential international faculty recruitment hires, so that we're kind of in the interviewing process and looking a few months ahead. So kind of in those, different stages
Yeah,
depending on
yeah.
the person.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm just kind of wondering like where and how is the best way to initiate contact with your office.
Okay. All right. So Catherine, if you have any questions or any like any issues with your new hire, just feel free to reach out to me.
Okay.
You can let me know, hey, I now have a student, well, have a newly graduate student who is going to become one of our faculties, right? And then can you advise what kind of visa or how can we onboard him? And then most of the time, if this person is in the United States already, then we will ask you, can you let us know what kind of status is she or he now? If he is transferring from another university on H-1B, then we will advise, well, this person, you want to sponsor him with an H-1B. But if he is currently on OPT and then you just want to know how to onboard him, we can also let you know the process. So it
Okay.
really depends on the different situations. And then I will be able to help you with that.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Catherine, can I ask which department are you in or which school are you from?
Yeah, I'm in the dental school. So
Oh, dental
I'm
school. Okay.
in a faculty affairs role that works with all the different dental departments. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I think a lot of the times the departments work on this paperwork, and there are certain clinical affairs people who um, specialize in this, but I think my boss thought it would be relevant for me to have some orientation to kind of be able to help out when needed. So,
Yeah.
so it's not, I've helped with some of the gathering of the data for comparing wages and things like that, but kind of
Oh.
learning more about the actual paperwork process itself.
Mhm. 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 That's wonderful. It's nice to have you here.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone has any travel questions? Dan and I was thinking that maybe some of you would ask some on travel question, but then we haven't really received any travel questions from you. But it's fine if it's not an issue for you. We are happy. But then if there is any travel questions, then feel free to ask.
Hi, Shuei. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi Nandi. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So I did have one question. Not that I'm getting many questions, but I do anticipate for those folks that I have on H-1B visas, is there any sort of guidance that your office is giving as it pertains to them traveling out of the country and what they should do and what they should have?
Mhm. Good question. Dan, do you want to answer this question?
Sure. So, I mean, yeah, I'm getting quite a few questions about that. I would say the first thing is, as of yet, we haven't received any, like, there hasn't been any changes to like policy or regulations and stuff like that. Um, so there's nothing really new, but I would
Mm-hmm.
just say, um, they should the H-1B beneficiaries should always reach out to us to make sure, like, they have everything. It's like
Mm-hmm.
their approval notices, their visa stamp should be valid. They're going to need to carry their LCA.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another thing that we're really stressing is to make sure that they have. I mean, I personally am just saying, like, make sure you have a copy of the entire petition that we sent, because,
Mm-hmm.
and then it can be a lot, but
Yeah.
my thing is, like, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Right.
Um, and then of course pay stubs, like updated pay stubs are important to bring. Um, I'm also asking them to just kind of see if they can get a letter from the hiring department, whether that, whoever wants to provide that letter basically, and it doesn't need to be detailed, but just
Mhm.
basically stating, like, yes, this person is going to go on like vacation, for example. We're aware
Yeah.
of this, and when he or she returns, we expect him or her to continue um, his work at our department.
Mm-hmm.
The other things is that we're asking the H-1B beneficiary to communicate, like, their date of departure from the U.S., their date of reentry into the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
and their port of entry where they reenter in. So, and
Okay.
the reason for that is not that we're really expecting this to happen, but it very well could happen, where when the individual re-enters the United States, CBP could pull them aside and decide to,
Mm.
call the department and say, hey, we have this individual here. Would you like to tell us about what he or she does?
Yes.
And so as a department, you're kind of ready for that call. You know that person's traveling, you know where they are, and
Yeah.
then of course what they do, so you can just kind of answer those questions. If the officer starts to ask about anything immigration related,
Yes.
you can send them to our office then, and we can answer those questions, because that's obviously what we deal with.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just kind of extra precautions now,
Yeah.
but that's just being extra safe. Oh, and everything should be on paper.
Okay.
No digital copies. The last thing we need is
Hmm.
individuals handing over their phones or laptops to
Hmm.
the
Okay.
authorities at the border, because
Okay.
then they can go and just search them.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and
Oh,
then we also heard that we also heard that some of the scholars, well, not Penn scholar, but then other H1B scholars, when they were traveling at the border, and then the CBP officer find out that the information on their social media, for example, LinkedIn, is different from
Oh my God.
the information that was submitted to the USCIS.
Yeah.
And that person got into trouble.
Wow.
So yeah, I just want to make sure that every information is consistent. The
Okay.
information on different document are consistent, especially their resume. As far as we understand, that some of H1Bs, they have different resumes for different uses, different purpose.
Mhm.
So they really want to be very careful about that.
Okay.
Yeah, because they might look up like their LinkedIn page and they might say,
Yes.
well, your LinkedIn says this, but your resume that you handed me says this. So
Wow.
explain that inconsistency.
Okay. Goodness.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. Yeah,
It's a good
that's,
question.
yeah, this is a good question, and then yeah, it's
Yeah. So otherwise, better safe than sorry is what you're saying.
Yes.
yes, better
Okay.
safe than sorry.
All right.
But then we also want to advise them not to be too too proactive when you talk to the CPP officer. Do not present document they did not ask for.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unless they ask.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't have them lift like the whole petition up and be like, here's my petition. Just answer the questions
Unless
they
they
ask.
ask.
Just answer the questions
Yeah,
they
yeah,
ask.
yeah. Unless
Okay.
they ask.
Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, they will think, is there something wrong with this person? Why did he just try to hand me
Yeah.
this like 75 pages of
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna
petition?
need to send you to secondary so we can
Yeah,
screen all
that's
these,
right.
Oh,
So we can
this
review every
100-page,
page.
document that you've presented me with.
Oh, goodness. So just basically you're raising more suspicion around yourself if you're doing all of
Yes.
it. Okay.
Mm.
All right. Thank you.
These things. If any other questions? Oh, and another thing that we want to add is the credit card payment for the government fee that Dan went over like those information, and then we just want to let everyone know that now the federal government is requesting every transaction to them to become digital, to become credit card. So we currently still having our department submit checks, and some of the department has already started to request us to send them the specific form for credit card payment, and then we used to put it as an option, but the federal government apparently is going to make everyone submit credit card payment before September 30th. Okay, September 30th is not before September, after September 30th. So September 30th, 2025. After that, everyone would only have the credit card option. So maybe if you are here that you want to bring this back to talk to a department and see whether how this is gonna work in your department. Okay, so we do already have some department requests to submit the government fee with credit card. But sooner or later, this will become the norm. This will become the only option. Okay, so our office is set to have everyone submit credit card payment on July 1st. Okay, so if you have any questions or if you need any more instruction, please reach out to either Dan or myself. Yeah. And
Yeah, I
we
would
will
say,
update our website.
yeah. And I would just add, I mean, like to kind of add to what you said, Chiwei, is I know I work with a lot of the H's and stuff like that. So and I know it comes up with like different departments having different processes. So I would, like Chiwei said, if you want to take this back to your department and see what they can do, it's probably a good conversation to start having to see if there's any like, what logistics need to be worked out, what issues may arise, like for example, like daily spending limits and stuff like that, and how long those will be able to be increased if they need to be. because if we were to send a petition out with the credit card information and the adjudicator or the officer at USCIS were to punch in that credit card information and it doesn't go through, they're just going to send it right back to us. And they're going to say, nope, we were unable to process this. In which case we kind of, I don't want to say we need to restart the process because we already know, like we already have an LCA and stuff like that. But, if we're working on this case, and it's, the deadline's really tight, that may cause issues, because it takes time for that petition to come back to us, for us to kind of reorganize it or address any issues or change anything that may need updating, and then turn it around. I mean, that could possibly, to be kind of conservative about it, it might take us a month to do, with the shipping and stuff like that. So, we definitely want to make sure we're coordinating that properly to avoid that being an issue. So
All right, thank you, Megan. Mhm.
thank you.
All right, I think if there's no more question, we will just thank you again for everyone to be here. And then if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me or Dan. Okay? So thank you.
Thank you.
See you very soon. Well, stop by our new office if you need a cup of coffee.
Or McDonald's.
Yeah, oh my goodness. That's right. Okay. All right, see you.
All right.
Bye. Thank you.